This episode brought to you by the following patrons: Leaf Girl, Min, Sex Caliber Bones a Lot, Madeline, Alyssa, Vixen, Holly, Natasha, Laura, Jeremy with the laser eyes, Allie, Logan, Libby, Aaron, Kristen, Amy, Tia, and Jonathan. But because it's that special time of the month, we also get to shout out our You Can Get It level sponsors, and they are Jennifer, Heather, Kathy, Nikki, Knitting Menace, Samantha, Trevor, Renee, Caitlin, Edward, Dharma, Grace, Bryce, Shannon, Ali, Dr. Voorhees, MD, Amelia, Liza, Becca, AJ, Radioactive Spider Gwen, Irene, Nate, Naomi, Bex, Laura, Cameron, Kaylee, Jackie, Alyssa, Mushroom Snail Fox, and Unintentionally Badass, aka Jennifer. And all the patrons want you to know you're loved, you're listened to, and you're all a valuable member of this awesome Horror Virgin community. And if you want to hang out with us, do so in the Facebook group. We'll be passing out Post-it notes like Blade daily.
Playtime! Oh.
Tell me, have you seen Blade?
Tell me, have you seen Blade?
All right, now I'm just going to picture Blade as MC Hammer for the entire movie. And oddly enough, the costumes don't change that much.
I was like, what do you mean picture Blade as MC Hammer? Blade basically is MC Hammer. This is the answer to the question, what if Hammer did hurt him? This movie. Thank you for tuning into Horror Virgin. I'm Paige.
And I'm your Horror Virgin Todd, which means I don't like scary movies, but you guys make me watch them. And this week, thank God, the listeners made us watch
Thank you.
Blade
Trinity.
Trinity. And guys, thank you. Seriously, this was a delight.
What a great way to send off Chris Christopherson.
I can think of no better way to honor Whistler than to do this of the three movies. The one where he gives his life to give us Jessica Alba, I guess.
First of all, it's Jessica Biel, and there is a fun fact.
Oh, that's right. It's not Doc Angel. It's the other one.
No.
It's Seventh Heaven.
It's the other one. There's a fun fact where literally the marketing department for this movie put Jessica Alba on a bunch of marketing materials because even they got it wrong. So I can't blame you.
I mean, they're not the same person, though, and I just watched this movie. I mean, yes, they fucked up, too. But so did I. It's fine. Anyway, Paige, was this the first time you saw the movie?
This was the first time I saw the movie, but I had heard a lot of, I'll call it like oral history of this movie. I feel like that is a thing that happens where like...
Oh, because of the production was insane? I mean, this is the movie
Yes.
where the Post-it notes come from.
That's correct.
Where, and I haven't seen it, but that inside joke sort of from the new...
Yes, from Fall Guy. It was Fall Guy that we were talking about it in, but yes.
That was the episode we were talking about it in, but it was actually the movie Deadpool.
Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, it was the most recent Deadpool.
Yes.
Where Wesley Snipes is like, I never liked you.
I hate you. You always did. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Yes.
So like Wesley Snipes, and I knew that going into this, hated Ryan Reynolds on the set of this movie, which I get. If I was Wesley Snipes, I would too. I'd be like, shit, this guy can do action and he can act. Man,
I mean,
my generation of just action people, we're dying out.
No, first of all, I think this might be the worst I've seen Ryan Reynolds in a movie,
Me
and I
too.
like Ryan Reynolds.
The script is terrible for Ryan Reynolds.
This is offensively bad.
To a point where I loved it.
I mean, there were parts of it that I was like, how did they spend this money? How did this get made? But it's not just that he hated Ryan Reynolds. Wesley Snipes hated this entire production. The entire production.
You know when it started, Paige? Page one that starts with the voiceover from Ryan Reynolds and not Blade.
That was added after because there were a lot of times where Wesley Snipes chose not to participate in production. We'll get to it in fun fact. So I'm sure that was probably originally his voiceover. However, we'll talk about it a lot more in fun facts. The problems with this movie actually start before the movie even really finishes pre-production.
Oh, you mean from like a how did it get made standpoint?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a textbook case of both studio interference and studios misunderstanding what audiences want out of a movie and mishandling the screenwriting and directing responsibilities within a movie, because this originally went through 3 or 4 directors before it became David S. Goyer's movie, and there were alternate scripts that actually sound fucking incredible that were passed on. And then, I don't know how much you remember of the last movie.
None. Absolutely zero. I remember zero of it.
Okay, the last movie was the one where they had that like weird mutant infection that gave all the vampires predator mouth.
And that was where they introduced the jaw that unhinges at the bottom too. I remember it now. Yeah, gross. Hated it.
Super gross.
Hated that part of it. So glad that came back.
But loved the movie.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, the same with this movie, Paige. I loved this movie.
Yeah.
How could I not? It features my favorite Scream actress.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I knew that you would love seeing Parker Posey.
Parker Posey's amazing in this. Yes.
She's not, but it's not her fault. It's the script's fault, and that's fine.
Oh, come on. Everyone is giving the best they can with their line.
That's true.
It's like every time you see someone saying it was like a big sadness knife in my heart. Like Jessica, not Alba.
Alba, Jessica Biel.
Nope.
That's who it is.
It's Jessica Alba. She's about to sing Waterloo, okay?
Would prefer.
When she delivers that line, it's like they cut out right before when she was like, oh my fucking God. You know what I'm saying? And then she delivers the line great, but she's just so sad that that's where she's spending her acting talent. Because everyone in this movie, I think, is pretty good at acting. Not Wesley Snipes, but I love Wesley Snipes.
I feel like Wesley Snipes is actively trying not to be in this movie, and that's pretty funny.
Fair.
I think Triple H is terrible, but they kept writing more scenes in for him, and that was a mistake. But then I feel like everyone else, they took the take where they read the line for the first time.
Yeah.
And that's not good. That's a bad thing to do. There's also lighting and editing and effects choices in this movie that defy logic. It's as if they were choices made by someone who didn't think someone would see this movie with their eyes, and that's crazy to me.
Oh, Paige, in a movie that features a scene where a blind woman is wielding a gun to protect herself in a room where her kid is hiding somewhere, probably that could be tagged with the bullet. What is happening? Put the gun down. I realize that you're not safe, and it's really sad what happens to you, but you're more likely to hit your daughter than a bad person.
I mean, here's what I will say. I feel like she could hear or smell him, but...
Smell him?
The way this movie treats the accessibility... Because she could probably smell the blood. Blood has a smell, and he is covered in it.
Okay.
But, the way this movie treats accessibility is really not great, because if you want to have a character who is blind, great, more power to you, support it. Use real life examples of how that person would get through the world. There are screen readers. There are and these things existed at this time. There are a lot of things that blind people use to work through every day that are easy to incorporate that would have explained a lot of this movie. But no, they have her full on staring at a TV screen, and reading off of it.
Paige, she has a Braille readout thing that she puts her fingers on. She's reading the screen, right? Well, she's doing that on the computer too. I don't know if that is a thing, but she's doing that while she's reading I realize it's strange, but
that is actually two different scenes, because I wrote this down, because the movie does not tell us she is blind until almost 40 minutes into the film, when we have spent multiple scenes with her, and it's not until we see her reading The Wizard of Oz to her daughter, because that's something that comes up later, and she has the Braille book, that I was like, oh, she is blind. I thought she was just wearing sunglasses inside because Blade, for the bulk of this movie, because that is a valid thing that would happen in these movies, is someone would just wear sunglasses.
Yes, absolutely they would.
Up until that point, up until they have her reading in Braille with her daughter, and then she has a Braille keyboard on the computer. But that's not the first time we've seen her use a computer. We have seen her multiple times not only navigate the room, but present and show objects. And you do not know she is blind until the movie tells you, because the movie has no idea how a blind person would move through the world. And they did zero research on that, clearly. And I'm like, there are so many things that you could have done to actually make this a cool accessibility thing. It's not there. It is not there. This movie don't do it.
It's a Wesley Snipes movie from 2004. You're asking for it to do too much. And I'm not saying it shouldn't have, but there's no way that was going to happen, right? And I also am 80% sure you do see that she's blind. They clue you into it earlier on. I honestly don't remember, because It's a Blade movie. I don't think I need to pay attention to that kind of stuff.
The only reason I know is because when they first introduced her, I was like, sunglasses inside. Is she blind? No, this is just a Blade movie. And then I kept asking that question every time she was still wearing sunglasses. And then finally, the Braille thing came out and I was like, did they think the sunglasses were enough to tell us? Not in this movie. Like, not in a movie where everyone is wearing sunglasses.
No,
But
yeah.
here's what I'm saying about the accessibility thing. All they would have had to do was to give the computer a voice.
I swear to God, Paige, if you try and work Amy Sad through keyboard into
I'm
this
not.
movie, I'll be so mad at you.
I'm not.
It's like every time you're trying to bring in Congo.
No, but all it would have had to have been like printout of this. And she'd be like, if you look at these numbers, because one would assume the computer then read her the numbers at a different time, or whatever.
Who knows? She's a scientist or whatever. She creates the disease
I know.
that kills Drake.
It's pretty awesome. I mean, look, I thought it was Kendrick that killed Drake, but
You know what I don't get? Dracula's a one-word name too. Why call him Drake?
this is a huge issue that I have with this movie.
Let's dig in, Paige.
Let's fucking dig into this shit. It's fucking not Dracula. God damn it. Okay, like.
But it is Dracula.
I know the movie is saying that. I know
Okay.
that within the movie is saying it is Dracula. I am telling you that the movie tries to have it 14 different ways.
Yeah, it's the movie. It can do whatever it wants.
Right, but none of that makes any sort of sense for it being, air quotes, Dracula, and they never tie it back to the Dracula myth.
What do you
Dracula's
mean?
a specific person.
I
Like,
know.
Dracula's one specific vampire in history.
I know, but that's why he's wearing that armor at the end.
No.
That he then takes off so they can kill him.
First of all, that is definitely his skin, because his skin is the same shape as the armor, but then the armor is also in another room that's also the same shape. That makes no sense.
Does he take his skin off? Is that how that works?
I don't know. There's a separate armor that's the same shape as his skin.
I gotta take off my skin armor vest and hang it up. Like, ugh.
It's not his skin. It's like, it would be like if I had armor that looked exactly like my body and my skin, which would mean it would be very difficult to fit because that'd be really tight or whatever. But then his skin has the same like armor, like greaves and everything. I can't even get into that. I feel like that was just a design choice. Anyway, they give us his backstory. And they're like, he is this person. He was born in ancient Sumeria. That's why he's buried in a ziggurat. Like, that's why all this stuff. And I'm like, okay. And then they're like, also, he's Dracula. And I was like, what? Did he go to Transylvania? Is this the same guy? Is
Yes.
that what's happened? And they're
Yes.
like, no. No, they literally say, they're like, he did this, this, and this until this time, and then he disappeared for X amount of years, which would have been the Dracula years.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah,
like,
he passed it on. It was like a nom de plume or whatever.
see, that would have made more sense, except that they don't establish that at all.
Yeah, but Paige, like, who fucking cares? It's a Blade movie, dog. Like, it's like not about that. Also, the movie told me what happened. I have to live in the universe the world creates.
Sure.
So, like, yeah, Dracula took a back seat during the whole story.
I guess.
You've ever heard about Dracula? That was just some other dude posing as Dracula because the real Dracula was asleep. None of it makes sense.
And living like a king in Patagonia this entire time.
No, he's literally been asleep in Iraq.
Yeah, in a ziggurat.
And when I say that, I mean probably one of the cheaper SG-1 sets.
Yes.
Like, that's where they go to find him. But Paige, the reason they did that was because this was 2004 and they really wanted to show people that were dressed like American soldiers
Yes.
trying to find someone in a Middle Eastern type compound.
100%.
Like, that's 100% why it starts there and it starts this way.
Yes.
You just have to be okay with that and realize that, like, this is not going to be lore Dracula. No one's like, excuse me, Professor, this doesn't abide by the lore of what is... Yeah, no shit, it's a Blade movie.
Here's my thing, though. Make your own mythology make sense.
No.
Like, I don't care that it's not exact.
They refuse.
And they refuse.
They refuse. No.
But there was a chance for this to make sense, and that's why I'm pissed.
Yeah.
Because do you remember who directed the last movie?
No, Paige. Of course I don't.
It's Guillermo del Toro, and the last movie's fucking incredible.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right?
Because the last one was good, yeah.
The last one was good.
And the cool creature design stuff
Yep.
is from that one. Even the stuff in this one.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. That checks out.
Right? There was an alternate storyline script that probably included some of this, but essentially it was that the vampires were winning. They had imprisoned or enslaved most of humanity, and Blade, because of his slow aging, is still around, and he is humanity's last hope. And that's the one that Guillermo del Toro would have directed.
And he's the Whistler now.
Whistler dies.
Well, I know, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, and then he becomes Whistler with the Nightingales or whatever they call themselves.
No. There are none of those. It is just Blade.
I would have also taken old Blade kicking ass. Like, I'm here for that.
That is what it would have been. It would have been Blade basically lone wolfing it in Whistler's memory.
Oh.
And I'm here for that too. That's the one Wesley Snipes and Chris Christopherson wanted to make. And Guillermo del Toro was going to direct. And then Guillermo del Toro pulled out because the studio gave him Hellboy, which was his like dream movie that he wanted to do.
And it did well.
Which is incredible. Like his Hellboys are so good. Like I'm glad he got to do Hellboy.
Yeah.
But it makes me extra frustrated with what we got for this movie, which makes no damn sense.
Yeah, it sounds like it could have had a real Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles like the last Ronin vibe, which I'm here for. That would have been cool.
I feel like this is, and I won't bring it up the rest of the episode. I just got to get it all out right now where I'm like, brain ain't braining with this movie. Nobody kept notes. It is still bonkers and fun in some Blade ways, but not nearly as fun as the first two. The first two don't make sense, but you don't care because the rest of the movie around it is so fun and so dynamic and so hilarious that you're just like, I don't give a shit. And this one kind of drags. The fight scenes aren't as good. The effects are fucking terrible. Like they try to give everyone this weird pithy comedy dialogue, and it doesn't really work for almost anybody.
Even the person who that's made for, which is Ryan Reynolds.
Yes.
It's not written well. It's not written well at all.
It's not, and you can tell that Wesley Snipes don't want to be there. And we lose Whistler.
We did.
It's a bummer. We lose the people we love. And you know what? It's especially hard because we lost Whistler recently. And I feel like we should all take one moment of silence to remember how much he bitch slapped Toby Keith. And we're going to miss you, Chris.
Yeah.
We're going to miss you.
Don't let the bastards get you down. Anyway, Paige, I loved this movie. No notes. Like, I thought it was pretty stellar. I don't even know. Like,
I mean, it is crazy. That's fun.
Yeah, it's way over the top crazy, which is fun for me. I do think the dialogue is bad, and it's like, it's bad immediately. Like, it starts out, you're like, ooh.
This ain't good.
That wasn't great. And then it gets like, you're like 25 minutes in, and you're like, oh my God, it's like, this is campy as fuck, and I love it. Like, it becomes like a joke to me. It's that bad for so long. And it's like, it's not bad. It's just like 2004, before Ryan Reynolds knew how to do this well, people started trying to do it.
I mean, but it's even bad for that.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It was like before they figured it out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because there is a right way to do this, and Ryan Reynolds is so good at it.
Yes.
Like, that is normally what he like excels at. And it just doesn't work in this movie.
Deadpool is the right way to do it.
That's what I'm saying.
Like that's where they figure it out, right?
Yeah, agree.
This one, the longer it goes, the worse it gets. And it goes in kind of like you just described, where it's like, ooh, bad.
Yeah.
And then in the middle, you're like, okay, like this is wild. And then it goes all the way back around to the end being like, I physically can't believe this is written this badly.
I love it.
And this has millions and millions of dollars behind. Like, it started to make me almost angry, and then I was happy when he would get punched.
It was
like
great.
It's nuts.
You start rooting for what's his dick.
You start rooting for Triple H, which is a weird thing.
You start rooting for WWE over there. Yeah. I also will say this, Paige. I love dogs so much. If I had a gun and those 3 dogs walked out, I would shoot them immediately. Those are vamp dogs. They're vamp puppies. Like, what are we doing?
Can I tell you the hardest I laughed in this movie?
Was when they slid out the door or window or whatever.
That was very funny.
Yeah.
No, the hardest I laughed was right after.
Yes.
When Triple H comes in, he's like, you seen my dog? And he's like, why don't you check the lobby? I was like, a little Pomeranian bitch. Like, and again, I also love animals.
Of course.
But that's the one line that I was like, all right, okay.
You know what I love about my dogs? They don't want to drink my blood. I would definitely shoot those dogs. Like, they're not dogs. They're vampires. She's a vampiranian. Like, I'm not gonna pet a vampiranian. Come on.
Oh, vampiranian. They're trying to do the character design from the last movie, but they don't quite have it right. So it actually looks too much like Predator, which is a little weird for me.
I'm sorry. Was that a dig? Like, it's awesome. Like, it's great.
No, that's not a bad thing. It almost made me like, I started having my own headcanon of like, what if Predator is a vampire, but from a different planet, and their vampires look different? Someone should be asking these questions.
Somebody should.
You can't disprove my theory, is all I'm saying.
I wouldn't dare try.
But think about it, you know?
Can I just ask, at the end of this movie, when Drake and Blade are about to start fighting, and he's like, are you ready to die?
Yeah.
Blade just says, I'm always ready to die, motherfucker, which is like not, I don't know, it's fine. It was 2004.
It's fine.
Like, nobody's really trying with this movie.
No.
Like, he could have said something like that sort of tied in, like, the beginning of this, where he was like born he could have been like,
yeah.
I was born half dead, let's finish the job, or something like awesome like that. But no, he's like, sure, motherfucker, or whatever.
Yeah, like
it just didn't land so hard for me. And I was like, come on, this is your last movie before prison, I think. And then, like, isn't it? It's like right around that time, Paige. I see your face. I don't know if it is or not, but it's like right around that time. I don't even know if we're going to talk about it because I don't know much, but pay your taxes is the high level thing that I know about that. So pay your taxes. But anyway, like I just wanted more out of that moment, and we didn't get it.
Here's the thing that I think we get a little bit. I think we definitely get it in the first movie, which is where we get the like, some motherfuckers always be trying to ice skate uphill, right?
Perfect line. Yes.
Perfect line. Where it's almost more of like a blaxploitation style of like doing the dozens, kind of roasting everybody as he goes through his world. I love that.
Yeah.
That is my favorite version of it. We still get it a little bit in the second movie, not quite as much, and there's that weird love story at the end of the second movie, and then this doesn't have it at all. They give it all to Ryan Reynolds, and I'm like, that's maybe my problem with Ryan Reynolds, is we know that Wesley Snipes has the capacity to carry, even as a straight man, the hilariously written jokes that this movie could have, and instead we're getting a watered down version of it delivered badly by Ryan Reynolds.
I mean, I don't necessarily disagree.
Yeah.
Paige.
Yes.
I have a question though. Did you watch the theatrical cut or the extended unrated cut?
Ooh, I watched whatever was on Amazon. I have no idea.
How long was yours?
1 hour and 44 minutes.
Okay, so you watched the theatrical cut.
Okay, is there more?
Wait, did you miss Blade having full penetrative sex with Drake?
I'm sorry, what the fuck are you talking about?
Paige, it's unrated.
Does that actually happen? My brain is fried.
Paige,
okay.
Why would that? No, I was just making a joke that it was unrated.
No, here's the thing. I was like, there's no way that happened, but I kind of hope it did. And if it did, I want to know about it, because I'll watch Dominic Purcell and Wesley Snipes. Like, yeah, oh my God, yes.
Oh, Prison Break me, baby. Let's go.
I have not had us do it on Horror Virgin because I feel like it's hard to find streaming and it's not very well known. But there is a horror movie that I have on DVD that's Dominic Purcell, Michael Fassbender, and Henry Cavill.
It's just a murderer's row of huge dongs right there.
Yes!
Good God. Okay, sorry.
I know. And Michael Fassbender is basically like almost, I would say like a Nazi vampire, I guess is how you would describe this.
Tell me more.
Yeah. That has like imprisoned this family on their farmstead with a curse.
Paige, okay, hang on. Is this a book you're masturbating to, or is
no?
Okay.
Oh, Todd, I haven't even gotten to the most masturbatory part of this.
Do continue, Paige. Do continue.
So Dominic Purcell and Henry Cavill play brothers, and Dominic Purcell went out to try and like defeat Michael Fassbender, but he gets like imprisoned in a shipping container, and Michael Fassbender has to go like drink from his shoulders a lot, and then Henry Cavill shows up to try and find his brother, and he also ends up drinking from Henry Cavill's shoulders a bit, but then they have to like fight him, and then they break the curse. Spoiler. But it's called Blood Creek, and it's like a 90 minutes of why the fuck did this get made?
This is the best supernatural recap podcast I've ever listened to.
100%. That's if you like Supernatural, watch Blood Creek. It's about the same.
Paige, can I walk you through what my experience was when I decided to watch the unrated extended edition?
Yes, I need to know. I need to know what I missed.
I can definitely tell you if you missed some stuff, because I did just watch it just now. But I saw that I could watch the theatrical version and I could, or I could buy the...
Did you just buy it because you were like, it's fucking Blade, let's go?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah,
I was
of
like,
course.
oh,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
$4.99 and I can own Blade Trinity, a movie I've never seen, but based on the strength of the first two, I'm definitely going to buy. Yes, I did. I own it and we'll watch it again. But maybe, perhaps, we should walk them through this movie scene by action-y scene.
Let's go. We open on a voiceover from Ryan Reynolds, who we have not met or seen yet. So if you're watching this movie for the first time and you don't know anything about it, like most of the people in the theaters would have, you're like, who the fuck?
And then you hear the person behind you whisper to his girlfriend, say, that's the guy from Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place.
Yeah, it's like, hey, have you seen Van Wilder? That's what's going on.
And she's like, you like that actor too much. And you're like, yeah, he's handsome, but he's also really charismatic. He's funny. I think he's going to go places. Sorry, that's like a real conversation I had the first time I watched Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place with my then girlfriend.
Wow.
She was like, you're weirdly obsessed with this guy. And I was like, he's going to be a star. Paige, ask me which one I was talking about.
Not gonna.
It was not Ryan Reynolds. It was the other guy.
Dominic Purcell?
I don't know. Every time you said that name before in the last story, I thought Dominic Toretto. So I was just like, I guess he's protecting his family or whatever.
Oh my God, that would be even crazier. It's just like a vampire Nazi, and he's like, you know what's more important than the Third Reich? It's family. That's crazy. Oh my God, I need that movie right now. No, I mean, we will talk about where Ryan Reynolds' familiar tattoo is when we get there, but we will.
It's definitely on the backboard. I'll just say that. Like, it is on the backboard. You know what I'm saying? That is a term I've never called that part of my body the backboard. But if you know, you know.
Yeah. If you're slam dunking it into your mouth, your nose is going to touch it. So,
and if it's not, it's going to be a good time because it's...
Yep. So we open on his weird voiceover where he's like, everyone thinks that Dracula's just got the cape, the movies, and they're all full of shit. And it all started with Blade. And I was like, what? No, it didn't. But we know when Blade was born and there were already... What? Anyway, we cut to the Syrian desert in a ziggurat. And again, yes, they were probably trying to reuse army helicopters and sets that they had from the many other war movies at the time, because this is only 3 years after 9/11.
It also would play well, right? It is like,
yes,
gonna play well with the audience that was in America in 2004.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we see soldiers get off the helicopter. One of them flips the sun off. So you're like, vampires. They go up into the ziggurat. The floor caves in. They go down into another chamber and they're like, there's something else underneath. And there's like cuneiform everywhere.
By the way, the ziggurat is literally just like a sandcastle SG-1 Stargate set. That's what it looks like.
It does look like the set from Stargate. The only thing, Stargate is a pyramid, specifically instead of a ziggurat, but it does have that same big giant lane.
I mean the TV show, not the movie. Like, it is a set from SG-1, the TV show, Paige.
I did not watch the TV show. I had better things to do with my time.
Honestly, if you need a good, solid second screener that's like stupid sci-fi, it's solid. Do you pay attention to every bit of it? No, you do not. But it's nice to see MacGyver doing cool shit again.
That's fair. I do remember, even in the movie, they've got that big, wide lane of stairs, and this has that too. It very much has that look. And they're like, this is the cradle of civilization. He'd be comfortable here.
Oh, this is Mount Sinai?
I mean, depending on what and where you believe.
Right. I mean, who knows? I wasn't around. Who am I, Dracula?
Right. Well, in the movie, it is also unclear about like where Dracula was too. The movie yada yadas through a lot of the mythology because they assume you're not going to ask. They assume wrong, but they assume it all the same.
Paige, I did not ask.
I feel like I can't be the only one who had so many questions.
Yeah, I'm sure nerds saw this movie, Paige. Yeah. But like, I also think you don't go to Blade for your like solid historical Dracula history.
No, and I don't care if it's accurate to actual historical Dracula. I care if it's accurate to Blade. Does that make sense? Like, I just want Blade to be consistent within the world of Blade.
And Paige,
and we don't get that.
In a future trilogy of Star Wars, I don't think like they couldn't get it right.
No.
So like, I also don't feel like people go to see Blade for it to make sense within the world of Blade. And I'm not saying that is a high bar to clear.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like a low bar to clear is making sense within your own world.
I agree. But they choose not to, and I respect that decision.
They choose not to. And here's the thing. At this point in the movie, I was like, I don't know what the fuck is happening. So give me the weirdness in my veins. And there's a body below them.
Are we about to find Saddam Hussein in this?
Oh my God.
In this SG-1 set? Like, that's what it looked like, Paige.
Lord, Todd.
Yeah.
If it had been vampire Saddam Hussein, I would have never stopped laughing.
They just like open a hatch and you see like a middle-aged man with his hair all askew, like that photo of him right before he hung.
But then he looks up and he's got vampire fangs.
Love it.
Give it to me. Anyway, they break through to the floor. There's something down there. What is it? At first, I thought it was a robot monster. Now, here's something a compliment that I do want to give this movie. They clearly did not have the money or the resources to do character design at a level that was going to look realistic in full daylight.
Paige, I think you also left out one attribute there, and that was desire. I think they also lacked the desire to do that.
Right.
Because when we talk about budget, they definitely had the funds to do that.
Oh, well, all right. They chose not to. And so a lot of this character up until later is kept in shadow, but very effectively because like in this scene, it's got these like claws that comes out. It kills all the people you don't recognize because obviously Parker Posey and Triple H make it out alive.
I was a little surprised Triple H made it as long as he did, but I knew he'd make it out of this scene. And when I saw Parker Posey, I was like, oh, the girl from Scream. And I was like very excited to see her in this movie. And I knew she'd be around for a while because she's a delight.
And she was in a lot of stuff around this time. This was like her heyday.
Yeah.
But the reason Triple H is around as long as he is because they liked him on set and kept writing scenes for him. So like he was supposed to die when he got shot in the eye with an arrow. In fact, he should have died because those arrows had like silver and like UV light in them and he just for some reason doesn't die.
Yeah, you could say, okay, well, I guess the UV light didn't go off, so it was like a dud or whatever. But the bullet itself or the arrow tip itself is silver. So that would have killed him. Yeah. That's why I thought, like, at the end of this movie, the whole question of the movie is not, will Blade and the team kill Dracula? It was, is Triple H a fucking vampire or not? Because his, like, teeth are metal. They're not, like... Right. So they could be fake. They also might just be metal overlays over his actual fangs. No idea. So, like, when he explodes in that mist of vampireness, I was like, holy shit. Best reveal of the movie was that he was actually a vampire the whole time.
Thinking back on it, because I assumed he was a vampire because it was Triple H.
Me
and
too.
I was like, he's a character, right?
But the eye throws you off, right?
The eye throws you off, but then the eye is just so that they could keep him in more scenes. He was supposed to die in that scene.
Because guys, when it comes to commissary, he can reach the high shelves, and you can't discount that on set. Like, people need to reach those high shelves. Actually, I think he's pretty decent in this movie. I'm surprised we didn't get more of him in movies because he's not terrible.
Well, okay. So having just watched the Mr. McMahon documentary like a few days ago on Netflix.
I refused because he was in it. I was like, any documentary he's in is probably going to be way too nice to him.
They definitely cover all the stuff. They don't spend as much time on it. I would say if you want the most true account, listen to the Behind the Bastards episodes.
I have, yeah.
And it's because that's like 6 parts and it goes through a lot of the same stuff. I will say that the documentary on Netflix actually spends a little more time than Behind the Bastards does on the Attitude Era and the feud with WCW. And I found that incredibly interesting.
Yeah.
And that is a place where Triple H really kind of comes into play because I don't know if you know this, Todd. Triple H is married to Stephanie McMahon, Vince McMahon's daughter. And so Triple H now is the creative director for the WWE. So he sets all the storylines and who wins and whatever. And he's been doing that for the last 10 plus years.
Okay.
So like he doesn't really wrestle all that much anymore. But basically not long after this movie, like maybe 5, 6, 7 years after this movie, he then moved into more of a production capacity with WWE. And he and Stephanie were like they kind of tried to take over at one point. But then like Stephanie left the company and they don't have a ton of information information about that, and that now she's back, kind of. And it's a real weird soup of stuff, especially as the charges have come out against Vince recently, and he was removed from the company. So, like,
did they ask Vince in the documentary where Shelley Miscavige was?
No, but they should have. That would be great. But we would have only gotten kayfabe. It's still not as hard-hitting as I would like, but I did find it interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
If you're interested in just how some of those wrestling eras came to be and the backstory of, like, the creative part of it, I did find very fascinating.
That is interesting, yeah.
Anyway, he just gets added to more scenes after. So he was supposed to die. He didn't. I think the reason he's not in a ton more movies after this is because I think he took that much more involved role in WWE and
like
the creative direction.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I think that's what happened. But this would have been right around the time that he married Vince's daughter.
Okay.
Like within a year or two. And it was because there was a storyline of her marrying somebody else and then being with him. And then they actually, in spending time together to do that, fell in love. It's kind of a weird side quest in the documentary.
Paige, that was around the time I was watching wrestling. Like, that was my school days, you know? Like,
yeah. It's in, like, the NWO Attitude Era.
Yeah. That was in a time of my life where I was like, man, that first Andrew WK album slapped. Can't wait to hear his second.
Good luck with that.
Hindsight's 2020, baby. Yeah, but yeah, you were right.
Hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to this movie. It's a real weird looking monster, but we only see bits and pieces of it. Meanwhile, at what looks to be a train station factory.
Yes.
I can't explain any more than that. Bombs go off because Blade is there killing vamps.
I do love that they're like running out on fire, and then as one run towards the camera, he shoots it and it like turns into vampire mist, and then you just see him.
Yes.
It actually is a really cool shot. Like, I really do like it. And then it like starts like what I would call like a modern Chips opening style for like a sitcom.
Yes.
Which I think is very funny because I think there's a scene in this movie where Blade is talking about how much he hates the sitcomification of this script, and Ryan Reynolds is responding as like, yeah, but this is where things are now, man. Like, it's like that whole, and I do think that's probably why he hated it. You're right. That makes sense.
Yeah. Now, I will say, this section of the movie, like, so far, no notes.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Because this is basically the kind of shit we're getting in the last two movies, where it's Blade and Whistler just kicking ass, taking names. It turns into a car chase at one point where he's like, Whistler's in a tunnel below in a truck. He's up above, and he like jumps down over the overpass onto the truck, then gets into a car that comes out the back of the truck, and then he's like shooting vampires through the windshield, and as they like splatter into ash on the windshield, he's just windshield wiping them away.
I love that. It was great. He's also in like a muscle car. He looks like it's like Dominic Toretto is driving. It's like that kind of muscle car, and I loved it. It was great.
Yeah, amazing. His headlights are UV lights.
Yes.
So he just like puts his brights on,
or he can turn on the UV light of it, I guess.
Yeah.
It seems like maybe they're on a separate battery that doesn't last a super long time, but whatever.
Sure.
But they do, like, he does kill pretty much all the vampires as he's like in this car chase. And then this one, you think, vampire walks out. And here's why I thought Triple H might have been a human, because...
Wait, it's not Triple H in this scene.
I know. But they play with that theme, right? Right up top.
Yeah, because essentially a car flips.
Yes.
And we think there's vampires inside. And the guy climbs out, and he full fangs. He looks like a vampire.
He does.
Blade shoots a stake into him, and Blade is like, why aren't you Ash? And he's like, I'm not a vampire. We set you up. And we reveal that Parker Posey, who we fully thought was dead from the first scene, because it did seem like they might not have escaped. She's there with a Sony Handycam.
Yeah. Which would have been like technology at that point, right?
Right. With taking a video that she's going to release to the news. Now, here's what's wild is I think this is a plot point that would play way better today than it did in 2004, because you just have people with phones.
Yeah. You wouldn't need Parker Posey to have a Sony $6,000 at the time Handycam that looks more or less like the first digital camera you ever saw.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone would just get it on their phone. I actually really do love the plan that they pulled.
Yes.
Because if it wasn't Blade, it would have worked.
Right? Here's where what you were getting at with Triple H would have made a lot more sense if they could have threaded this needle of if he was a human and they had just found and turned a big human and you don't know who's a human and who's a vampire.
Yeah.
So who are you going to kill? Who are you going to trust? Who are you going to trust?
Who you going to kill?
That would make more sense, but no, he's just a vampire.
Right, yeah. Anyway, this doesn't really happen immediately in the movie because other story points happen before, but more or less the press pick up on this murder because Blade is like a vigilante on the loose now.
Right.
And that really does like change the dynamic of what they're doing because not only is he like hunting vampires and vampires are hunting him, now like the police and FBI are after him. Like Tommy Lee Jones is trying to get up in the mix. He's just trying to like manhunter him down.
Yeah, I mean, AKA James Remar, but yes, you were thinking of Men in Black, but that is accurate, yeah.
Well, yeah, in this movie, it's James Remar, yeah, but in the other movie, it is James Earl Jones. It's the sequel to The Fugitive.
Yeah. And we do get a very brief cutaway to Parker Posey. Do you remember these cameras? Because
Yes.
it was like 2004, but they had the tiny DVDs.
Yes.
And then you had to have the separate thing to put it in. So she's like, puts it in and it just says like DV cam. And I was like, oh my God, this is hilarious.
But at the time, it was like technology. That was like, oh my God, this is super advanced tech. Yeah.
Peak technology. And she's watching it back and she just goes, oh, Blade. And I was like, who wrote this? Like,
Who cares, Paige? It's Parker Posey. Let her cook. She's great.
well, here's the thing. I would normally love to let Parker Posey cook. I feel like they ain't giving her no ingredients.
And she's still making genius. Like, I have to assume all of these are choices.
Sure.
There is a line delivery in this that I am convinced the actress Parker Posey in the moment realized it was gibberish and like she just like dead face. Like it's amazing.
I mean, you mean like one that she says?
Yes.
Yes. I remember watching her face glaze over.
Yeah, I remember the line. She like delivers it and then her eyes go as dark as a shark, like dead. It's amazing.
Where she's like, I'm going to pay off my Camaro. Like it just went, as soon as I cash the check from this movie.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
I'm going to buy that Malibu place. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Kat.
And I'm Pat.
We're from Seek Treatment Podcast, and we're here to talk about Blue Land. Do you know what I'm so about right now, Pat?
What? Tell me. Do not tell me.
Well, ready for this? I just heard that we're eating and drinking roughly a credit card's worth of plastic a week. Yeah, that's right.
Oh my God.
I know. The products we're using are contaminating our water supply, generating hundreds of microplastics that we're eating. So here's the good news. You're never going to believe this. Blue Land is doing something about it. They're eliminating the need for single-use plastic in the products we reach for the most.
From cleaning sprays to hand soap, toilet bowl cleaner, and laundry tablets, all Blue Land products are made with clean ingredients that you can feel good about. Blue Land is trusted in over 1 million homes, including mine. That's correct.
They offer refillable cleaning products with a beautiful, cohesive design that looks great on your counter. And refills start at just $2.25. You can even set up a subscription or buy in bulk for additional savings. I used my Blue Land spray today. I cleaned my dirty yoga mat with my Blue Land all-purpose spray today. It smelled good. It got the job done. And the bottle looked beautiful while doing it.
Blue Land has a special offer for listeners. Right now, get 15% off your first order by going to blueland.com/save15.
You won't want to miss this. Blueland.com/save15 for 15% off. That's blueland.com/save15 to get 15% off.
We get back to Whistler's lair.
Their hideout. Yeah.
Hideout. That's the word I'm looking for.
It's the place where these two older men live together and work on projects. Yes.
In a loving, committed relationship.
Whistler is very much a father to Blade, though. Like, it's not like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Whistler is like, you got to be careful because like vampires turn into ash, so there's no DNA and stuff. But if you kill humans, people will find them. And like, it's one thing when they're vampire familiars, but like this was just a guy.
Yeah.
And Blade is like, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. And he's like, it's only okay when it's Toby Keith. And Blade is like, all right, fine.
That's what we've always said.
Yeah. Our rule is if it's Toby Keith, it's fine. But if it's everybody else.
None of that's clearly in the movie, but there is a throw pillow on the couch that says, fuck Toby Keith. And I don't know why, but it is there. I'm just joking, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, listeners, if you have not read the story of Chris Christopherson almost basically getting into a fist fight with Toby Keith, do yourself a favor. It made me love Chris Christopherson so much more. So much more. And I feel like Toby Keith is sleeping easy for the first time in decades. where he was just waiting.
Paige, Toby Keith is sleeping much better because he died in February.
No, shut the fuck up. Are you serious?
Yeah, and I'm not saying anything, but do you know where Chris Christopherson was the night of February 5th?
I don't, and I guess I had totally forgotten that Toby Keith died because I don't keep tabs. But this makes a meme that I saw much funnier, where it was the day Chris Christopherson died, and it's him in hell, and he's just screaming, "Bring me Toby Keith!" And I'm just like, yeah!
Yeah.
Oh, I think Chris Christopherson won that one.
I mean, he outlasted him. I mean, Toby Keith, I think, died at like early 60s. It's kind of sad. I'm not quite sure how, but he died pretty young-ish. But yeah, Chris Christopherson was like almost 90, I think.
I mean, I'm not going to rule out a curse.
Paige, I do think we need to figure out where Chris Christopherson was in February. Like early February, I want to know.
Okay, but what if he and Pierce Brosnan did like a Strangers on a Train scenario where like Pierce Brosnan went and killed Toby Keith, and then Chris Christopherson was there on 9/11.
I just think you're trying to find extra crimes to pin on Pierce Brosnan, which is a bit I do love about our shows, but I feel like this one might be a bit of a stretch.
Potentially. So Whistler's like, hey, you can't kill humans. And he's like, they're not gonna, it doesn't matter. Meanwhile, at the police station, the police chief and two guys from the FBI, James Remar and another guy, are like, we've been following Blade for years and we think he's killed like a fucking ton of people and done a bunch of other federal crimes. Are they going to tell us what those crimes are? No. One just has to assume that the vampires are framing him, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, they aren't really framing him, if you think about it. He actually did kill that guy. Like,
yeah,
it's not like they deep faked it. Now, I mean, he did have, I guess, reason to because of what had happened over the course of the evening, maybe. I don't know. Like, it's still illegal. Like,
right.
Vigilantism is illegal, but it's a Blade movie, so I'm going to allow it. But the police chief, who we come to find out is also familiar, is not okay with it. So he like, hey, we got to like do our jobs,
right,
and find this vigilante on the loose.
We gotta. Now, we cut back to the like vampire lair, and they're like, ooh, good thing he agreed to come back with us peacefully. And you're like, that thing with the claws earlier? Like, okay. But it's Parker Posey, who they have not introduced at all, by the way.
Nope.
And is not a character from any other movie. So we're just like, I don't know who are these people?
She's a part of Vamp Teen 6 that got Dracula out of Iraq or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's what happened, Paige. I don't know what else you would call that. They exfilled Dracula from Iraq.
No, I know. I remembered in this moment that it was Iraq, and I was like, it really is Vamp Team 6.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, they're like all around the horror. We will find out that like it's her and a brother, and then like Triple H, and then like two other people, but we don't really know them or how they connect or where they are in the vampire hierarchy, because there is an established vampire government that we've met in previous movies, but this seems unrelated.
There's not in this movie.
Yeah.
You know why? Because Dracula's their god and God's back in town.
Yeah.
So who gives a shit about that?
Yeah. Anyway, they go to check on their vampire god, and he has full predator face, which is when I started forming my alternative theories.
Yes.
But then they do something really kind of cool where it's like he kind of shapeshifts, and then it's Dominic Purcell. And they're like, people need you. And he's like, all right. And he's like, but you guys kind of suck. And they're like, well, yeah, but the humans have a hunter. It's not our fault. And he's like, oh, I guess you want me to kill him then. And they're like, please, could you?
And not once does he say anything about Van Helsing. He's not
and
like,
when I see Van Helsing, I swear to the Lord I'll slay him. Yes.
I think he should have at least been like, this happened 300 years ago with Helsing or whatever, like something like that to like acknowledge the existing lore or whatever. And maybe like retcon it a little bit to make it that he won or whatever.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
But none of that. He's just like, I've been asleep for 7,000 years. And you woke me for this?
Yeah.
Like, why wake up after 7,000 years of slumber? Why are you sleeping that long? How long is your day?
I mean, if it's Lestat, he'll wake up to become a weird nu metal band leader.
That's how you know Lestat had shit taste in music. He slept through the 70s, 80s, 90s of music, got to Limp Bizkit and was like, oh,
this is my time.
Nookie slaps. I got to get out of here. We got to get on stage.
Time to do that weird, like, note that he does through all of that movie.
Somebody bring me a theremin.
Anyway, we cut to Whistler's watching the news and is like, dude, you're on the fucking news for killing that human. He's like, yeah, whatever. It's fine. But
You've literally got 5 stars blinking above your head right now. They're sending helicopters after us. Like, you done fucked up, Blade. It's insane to me that he doesn't understand that, like, now the police are involved.
right.
Like, you should understand what that means.
Yeah.
I also think it's great that this movie is not shy about just murdering a shitload of cops.
So this movie murders a Terminator amount of cops.
Yes, it's almost more than vampires.
Yeah, we'll get to it when we get to it because we're not quite there yet, but woof.
Yeah. But I'm just going to say not quite LAPD is going to be holding a recruiting drive after this.
What city is this?
It's not LA, but LA. I don't know. Yeah.
That's where my brain
Yeah.
was, is I was like, not LAPD, but LAPD.
Yeah.
Anyway, we do get this scene between him and Whistler where Whistler's like, you're like a son to me, and I'm sorry I got old because I can't stop aging, but I'm worried that I'm going to die and you're going to be left alone without someone to help you. We cut to a train platform where a bunch of like teenage vampires are like, ooh, a lady with a baby. It's a combo meal. But it turns out that it's Jessica Biel and she is some sort of like weird vampire hunter. And at this point I was like, oh, Whistler's got kids, because we also saw Whistler like playing with his wedding ring. And I was like, yeah, the Whistler got kids.
Shit, I did not think that was Whistler's kid until way too late. Because when they were like talking to her like she was Whistler, I was like, hang on. Is Whistler like 007? Like, does the name pass down to like Blade's next assistant or whatever Whistler was? So like, I guess my question is, if a Whistler dies, does Blade burn black smoke out of his chimney until he decides who's going to be the next Whistler? And then they like explain it. And I was like, oh, it's just his daughter. Okay, that makes way more sense than what I was doing.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. But that's what it's like to live with ADHD.
Yeah, there you go. So all of a sudden, the cops have surrounded them and Whistler gets shot like right out the gate, but he manages to trigger like a self-destruct on all the computers, and it's like holding onto their data, like storing it, and then the computer explodes. And I think what that also does is notifies the sleeper cell that is Abby and Hannibal and everybody else.
Yeah.
We just don't know that yet. But the FBI takes Blade in and they're like asking him like, how many people have you killed? And he's like, 1,182, but they were just familiars. The rest have been vampires. And they're like, okay, well, you're crazy. It's time for us to bring in a professional for you to talk to.
And boy, do they ever bring in that professional.
Yeah.
Wait, it just occurred to me. Is this the first time you met this character?
Yes.
Oh shit, Paige. You missed a scene.
Oh shit. Okay, tell me.
Blade and Drake have full penetrative sex. It's the unrated
Great.
version.
Okay.
No, sorry.
Amazing.
Paige, it is a like news talk show.
Oh no, I'm sorry. There is a news talk show where he has a book.
Yes.
A brief cutaway.
Yes.
Yes.
That scene's actually pretty long in the extended version, so I wouldn't be shocked if it was longer, because like we get like a lot of back and forth between both of the two.
Oh.
Like I'll call them more main characters than the news anchor guy. Although fun fact about that news anchor guy, he plays a like news reporter in this, but he's also in the Interview with a Vampire TV show where he plays a grown-up Christian Slater's character, I believe. Anyway, that guy's a great actor too, but I can't remember his name.
In the version I watched, that scene is 2 lines long, basically.
Oh, shit.
Yes.
In the version I watched, that scene is possibly the entire extended unrated section. It is so long.
Oh, damn.
They were wise to cut it.
Yeah, I would say so. No, it's the host guy being like, we've got this guy who wrote this book
Yes.
and the chief of police. And they're like, what, everyone's talking about vampires. Everyone's worried about vampires. And they're like, vampires don't exist. They're like, let's talk about Blade. And they're like, Blade's a sociopath. Click, end scene.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
It's way longer than that.
Okay, interesting.
We get this character that we're about to meet, the sociologist, biologist dude. We get his take on garlic. Like they go pretty deep in that scene. It's like a lot of information.
Is any of it useful?
Not a damn thing, Paige.
All right.
Everything you needed, you got in the theatrical cut,
Got
is all
it.
I'm saying. Yeah.
Got it.
But you know what? Worth paying the $5.99 to own
There you go.
the extended cut. I'm not missing anything, Paige.
No, but this is them playing Terminator, to be honest with you. This and the next like 20 minutes of this movie are lifted directly from Terminator because they basically have the interview similar to the one in Terminator with Kyle Reese, where it's like, let's talk through your delusions. Is it this? Is it this? And he goes through and he's like, vampires, what can you tell me? And he's like, they exist. Are you one? When you drink blood, do you get aroused? And then we reveal that that guy is in league with the vampire somehow.
Yeah.
And so they get rid of the FBI. They're like, we're going to take him to an institution. So FBI, get out. We're going to inject him with stuff. And he's like, I don't know what this will do to a hybrid like you. And you're like, oh shit, he's in on it. He knows he's a hybrid.
Yeah, it's honestly a really good plan. I mean, the plan was make a spectacle, get the police after Blade. The police will do the hard work of bringing Blade in. And we have a guy that we've been working with for 5 years to get in on the inside of this. And he's going to easily get him out.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they do, more or less. It's great. It's a great plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Parker Posey is a genius, is all I'm saying.
It does not seem like it, which is also a weird thing in this movie where
Rude.
she's like the mastermind, but is also played to be a total fool. It's really strange.
Honestly, I think she's a genius. I think she's an evil genius, and she's using like that, I want everyone to think I'm dumb, to like con everybody.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, after they inject Blade, he's like hearing Whistler's words and he's like, no, alone, super sad. But they're like, no one's going to help you now. Spoiler, they throw a vampire through the two-way mirror and they're like, no, Hannibal King, who is a character we've never met or heard from before.
But they do give him a full name.
A full name. But yeah, at this point, we're like, whomst is this?
Yes.
Because it's Ryan Reynolds, and so clearly important, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, this is your rescue, Blade. And he gives him the serum inhaler. Great. Blade gets out of his stuff. And now it's our vampire team versus these newfound people. And right now it's basically Ryan Reynolds and Blade. But that means it's Blade versus Triple H, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, who doesn't love that? But it's like Vamp Team 6 versus Blade Team 6. It's like that kind of thing. But Blade's team is like Whistler's interns, sort of.
Yeah.
That he was like helping, and his daughter's one of them, and they have, you know, like they have like a whole club.
Yeah, and at this point I was like, oh, it's Whistler's kids. But then Triple H throws Blade through the commentator's table.
Yes.
From the top of the cage. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, they all scatter out into the hallway, and this is where the way this is shot is so frustrating. They're doing this thing where I think they're trying to make it seem like some sort of alarm, but the lights keep going on and off.
Yeah.
And on and off. It is almost unwatchable because you like can't quite adjust to it and you can't really see in the dark. So it's almost like it's strobing the fights. It gave me a full-on headache. I was like, I can't even, this is rough.
You didn't like the murder rave page? That's like a Blade staple. Like that's like in every Blade movie.
No, see, here's the thing. If it was just the murder rave where it's like, let the bodies hit the floor with like the blood sprinklers, I'm here for that. I'm not here for Triple H slowly walking through a hallway where the lights go on and off, because like that is what this is.
Paige, I get it. He's a shouldery guy. You'd rather the lights just stay on.
Yes.
I understand. We get it. Yeah.
Yes. And then for some reason, I guess Jessica Biel is in Wanted where she's like curving arrows around corners and ricocheting stuff.
Can I just say, in a world with guns, why with the bow and arrow? Like, what are we doing? You can also bounce a bullet like that. Like Hawkeye does it all the time, or Bullseye or Deadpool or whatever.
My most angry version of this is the final fight where she literally fist fights like 17 vampires and has, we will reveal, a gun, a bow and arrow, and a cool ass laser batleth that we're going to see for the first time in a minute that they only use that one fucking time, but she could have just run through that crowd of vampires with it and just, they'd be done.
Imagine her running down a tight hallway with that towards vampires as they run scared from her. That would have been a very funny but like effective moment.
It would have been the net in Predator.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Not as cool though. The net in Predator's fucking badass. But yeah.
The net is fucking awesome always. Yeah. Of course.
But it's cool. It is cool. I'll grant you that. I like it in this movie too.
Yeah. Now, this is where the vampires kill a fuckload of cops, because essentially our heroes duck down a hallway and it's almost like a T-shaped hallway, like a capital T, where we've got vampires and police across from each other. And then in like the arm of the T, like, or the like the stalk, the shaft of the T is where our people are hiding. So it's basically vampires versus police. Lots of bullets fly. And then our team runs out through the lobby where it plays hilarious lobby music right into just a sea of cops.
Yeah. Paige, as someone who has the first initial T, I'm very uncomfortable with the way you just spoke about it.
The shaft.
I couldn't think of another thing to call it, and shaft made sense to me. Anyway, my favorite part of this, when they get outside and they are met with literally like a roadblocks full of cops. It's like 4 cop cars, 8 cops, guns drawn. And they get out of this scene because a guy in like a RAV4 drives up, opens his door and is like, woo, let's go. Like he like opens his door and stands up and is like, let's get in. And then they run over to the car and they get in that car and then they start driving away. And then those cops that were already waiting for them with their guns drawn start shooting. Like they gave them 30 seconds to start their getaway.
Well, and not only that, they stand there and they're like, oh no, all the cops. And then Blade jumps out of a window because Blade abandoned them mid-flight, like mid-fight.
Oh yeah, shit.
And he's like, I forgot my sword. And then it's a van, or no, I guess it is like a RAV4, like a, it's a SUV.
Yeah.
Drives up. How did they drive up? There's cop cars everywhere. How'd they get there?
And it may as well drive up with like a like it's so loud and like everyone would have heard it, and the cops are right there, guns already drawn, and we've already been seeing things happen for like 30 seconds after we saw the cops with the guns on them.
Yes.
So like what are the cops doing during this time? Are they just like, man, did that guy jump out of the 4-story window? Did you guys see that? He seems fine. Did you guys?
Yeah.
What is that guy doing here with the RAV4? Anyway, are you guys going to like Denny's tonight after, oh my God, they're leaving. And then they start shooting? Like they like are the worst cops, I guess is my point. They're not doing their job.
They're doing terrible. But they make it to their new hideout. And this is where we meet the Night Stalkers.
Night Stalkers, not the Nightingales. My bad.
Night Stalkers. Ryan Reynolds, Jessica Biel, Patton Oswalt.
Oh yeah, Patton's in this movie.
Dex is the name of the other, but I don't remember the actor's name. And then Summerfield and her daughter, who is
Natasha Lyonne.
I was like, Natalie? No, Natasha Lyonne.
Yeah.
And this is where we first meet everybody, and they just kind of go around the horn, and they are going through their new weapons and all that, because Patton Oswalt's kind of like their Q if this is James Bond, so he's just like, great, 007, we've gotten you this Klingon batleth with a laser that you can slice vampires in half with, and they're just like, great.
But it's Patton Oswalt, so it's like delightful too. Like,
yeah,
I like Patton a lot.
Me too. Patton's a really nice guy, like in person too. So like,
I've heard him on a lot of podcasts and stuff, and he just seems like a genuinely nice guy, but I don't know him personally, and who knows? But like, yeah, that doesn't surprise me to hear.
I have only had one personal interaction with him, and it was delightful, and he was very complimentary and nice. Anyway, this is also where we reveal that Ryan Reynolds is like, yeah, I know about vampires. I used to be one. And he like pulls his pants down.
He shows you the whole backboard, guys.
He's got a tattoo on his dick neck.
That's not a dick neck, Paige. That's not what a dick neck is.
Well, it's more the dick sternum, I guess, if your head is the tip of the dick. Because it's above where the neck starts.
It's the backboard.
Yeah, backboard I think is accurate. I mean, it's in between the cum gutters.
Yeah, no, it is. It's like, do you know where the box on the backboard is?
Yeah. No, it's exactly that. Yeah.
The tattoo would be in that box. That is right. That is it.
If your dick was the hoop, then yes.
Yeah. I don't know where his current wife was at this time, but I bet she was like, yeah, I should call Ryan.
Anyway, we find out that he had like some cure. I assume it's similar to the one they gave to Whistler in the last movie. But one of the things that we saw as they drove away in that SUV is they shot Triple H in the eye with an arrow. But then we cut to a conference room where all of our vampire friends, including Triple H, with an eye that's all fucked up, and he's like cuddling the Vampiranian. And they're just like sitting there and he's like, oh, I'm so mad they shot me in the eye. It's just like, what? And then Dominic Purcell is just like, you guys fucking suck. I guess I'm going to have to go kill people, right?
But then Triple H, you cut back to Triple H holding the Pomeranian. He's like, but it puts the blood on its skin.
It puts the blood on its skin, or else it gets the chair. Like that kind of, yeah.
I just realized it was the same dog in that movie too, right? It's not the same dog.
No. That's a Bichon Frise. That's like a little.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, but I got what you were going.
Yeah.
But we cut back to Ryan Reynolds giving like information about who Parker Posey and everybody is. is.
Yeah.
And he gives us their names, but we have no context for what those names mean or who they are or how they're connected to anything. Like, all we needed was like, here are their names. And they're like, they're the children of this vampire governor. We don't get that.
It's Danica and Asher Talos are their names, and they're brother and sister.
Yes.
And I don't think that they were necessarily important in the world of vampires.
They're not.
Until they exfiltrated Dracula, and then they became like right-hand men and women of like literal god to them, right?
Right.
So that's why they became important, but it made it seem like they were like minor leaguers and then just like got really lucky with this Dracula find or whatever.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
I don't know, but they're like, how are we going to kill them? Because like we kill a handful of vampires all the time, but there's so many more of them there are of us. And if they have this vampire king, that could really fuck our shit up. And they're like, so we've been working on essentially Hep V is what it was in True Blood. In this, it's the Daystar disease virus.
It is a virus. Yeah, it's a virus called Daystar, which I thought was very funny.
Yeah.
Daystar!
Fighter of the Night Star!
Champion of the sun!
Oh, you're a master of karate and friendship for everyone. I mean, that part still works.
Read this post-it!
Oh, Blade wants you to talk less. Oh,
And he hates you fucking Ryan! Sorry. Okay, we gotta stop. We're writing a second verse to our Nightman parody.
Yes.
That's when we know we've gone too far.
true. We do in this scene get the very vague, not fleshed out, barely informative exposition on who the king of the vampires is. And they're like, it's Drake and Kiki. Do you love him? Drink your blood now. It's basically, they're like, he has no specific origin. That's a line in this movie where they're like, here's the origin of this character. There is none. What? Like, bruh, no.
They should have just said something that's like kind of cool but makes no sense that you don't want to think into.
Yes.
Like, his story begins before written time.
Yeah.
Or something like that. That's
Yeah. He's always been around.
Yes, that's like nondescript and like what are we, but like they actually say.
They get too descriptive and not descriptive enough at the same time.
Right, exactly.
Because they're like, he's from ancient Sumeria. And you're like, okay, that's a time when we have historical records. That's why there was cuneiform there.
Yeah.
And they're like, he doesn't have any specific origin. I was like, you just told us.
You just gave us a specificity
Okay.
into a time and place where he like lived.
Right. And they're like, he's the patriarch of vampires and he was born perfect. And you're like, so was he born a vampire?
I think yes.
But like, how is he born a vampire from two humans? Does this go into that genetic thing where any humans could have vampire babies? Because we did not establish that in the multiple hours we've spent talking about vampire pregnancy in this world.
I 100% think we've spent more time talking about Blade than they did before they made any of the movies. And I love them for that. But I can't spend another 45 minutes talking about vampire pregnancy.
No.
I can't do it.
Here's what I need from this scene is just give me some sort of like, he fought off a creature that he found and was wounded but survived.
Oh.
And then became like something.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Just give me one line to explain.
Like how he became a vampire? Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Just for 2 seconds. Or he made a deal with the devil. Like, give it something. It's crazy that in a movie that spent so much talking about vampire birth earlier in the series was just like, I don't know, he was born a vampire. What?
But also, Paige, he doesn't really have a specific background. We just told you that. The writer's like, please don't ask.
Yeah.
Like, it's like that kind of energy. And you know what, guys? I didn't ask. And I didn't care. I was still here for it.
Well, and then they're like, he never had to evolve. And then he just got bored of being a vampire. And so he just went into the ground. And you're like,
Yeah.
Wow, you didn't think about this at all.
Guys, that's what it's like to be immortal. You can just sleep for 7,000 years.
Yeah.
It's no wonder he can fly. The dude's had the best catnap ever.
Yeah. Well, and then we just cut to him like walking around not Los Angeles. And he walks into not a hot topic and is like, you've got vampire merchandise. And she's like, yeah, including like vibrators. And he's just like, okay, I'm going to murder these people. Like, the Count Chocula was one thing. The vampire vibrators were another. And he just murders this Hot Topic girl.
Yeah.
Like, it's bad. She's dead. Kind of hot? Maybe. But she's dead, and that's bad.
Oh, you like the way she got manhandled, though. Like, you don't want to be...
Hondo!
You don't want to be dead at the end of that encounter page,
That's
but you
right.
want to experience
Sure, yes.
something very similar. I get it, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, not in a Hot Topic. I don't need that kind of soundtrack, but like, you know.
Paige, it happens where it happens. Like, you can't, whatever. It's Crixus or it's Prison Break. You're going to like...
It's Prison Break. It's not Crixus, but I would also be here for Crixus.
Yeah, I was on that 30 Days a Night episode. I remember.
How could you not be here for Crixus? Anyway, so we cut back to them giving us exposition. They're like, well, why wake them up now? And they're like, it's the vampire final solution. They're like, but that would destroy their food source. And they're like, yeah, don't ask questions. We'll address this maybe later. They don't.
No, they kind of do. They do, Paige.
Well, but they give them an alternate plan that we don't stop. We only pause because there's definitely way more than that one, and then we never come back to that again.
Oh, you mean where vampires are turning humans into Capri Suns?
Yeah, where they're like hydroponically farming humans. Yes.
Just for the blood. Just the blood.
Just for the blood.
Yeah. It's honestly the best vertical farming I've ever seen.
Honestly, I've seen people do tomatoes, and it's not quite as red as that blood. So like whatever they're feeding, whatever fertilizer they're giving those human Capri Suns, good job. But at this point, they're like, so that's why we need that vampire dude's blood to be the strongest blood in our virus strand. So we got to get some of his blood. And you're like, how the fuck are we supposed to do that? Like, dude is the juggernaut. He'll kill everybody. Like, it's nuts.
Yeah, they figure it out.
Yeah, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, this is where we get all the introduction of the amazing fucking weapons that we pretty much never see them use. That UV arc is the coolest shit. And I was like, I cannot wait for them to run through a hallway with that thing and just cut like 50 vampires in half. Does that ever happen? No.
It's essentially a lightsaber, though. It honestly looks like a bow and arrow, except it's the bow part that's very dangerous, right? Like, it looks like the bow, and that part is like the electricity or plasma or whatever it is that, like, cuts through things.
It's UV light, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, it very much is just like for vampires at least, lightsaber.
It is, though. The handles are in the center of it, like a Klingon bat'leth.
It is. No, it is, 100%.
So, like, you would use it that way, but it's got like that line of light. And unfortunately, we never really get to see it.
Yeah, we get to see it one time.
Yeah.
It's really cool, though. I liked it. It's probably an expensive effect.
I had forgotten it existed until she used it, and I was like, oh, fuck, why didn't we use that? She had that the whole time? And I was like, mad.
Yeah.
Anyway, we then reveal that for some reason, how they know all of this, no one knows because there's only one of these vampires and they were asleep for years until now. But they think that he can shapeshift because he has tiny bones like a snake and he can move them around. That's their explanation.
Yeah.
Which, here's what I'm saying about the backstory. Have him get bit by a fucking snake. Like, you establish that they're partially snake-like.
But Paige, he doesn't have a specific backstory. Like, did you not hear the movie when it was like, please stop asking questions?
I'm telling you, it's bad writing.
I'm not saying it's good writing, first off. Secondly, I love it.
Here's what I will say, because again, True Blood does the same arc. The way True Blood did it is she's Lilith, the, like, air quotes, Adam's wife before Eve from the Apocrypha. And that's how they do it.
Yeah. She has a whole fair now. Yeah.
She's got a whole fair. But because she is kind of kicked out of the Garden of Eden, but she's still kind of immortal, that's how they play that, right? So, like, you could have easily done something similar somehow here with one line in that scene.
But that would have given him a specific backstory.
Yeah, he needs one. If this had been turned in screenwriting school, my teachers would have been furious. And it was around this time. Anyway, so they're like, okay, well, we got to get to him to get the blood, to get the Daystar virus, to put it in the hole in the ground, and the green grass will roll around and around, and the green grass will all around. And so they're like, first, we're going to do the same thing that the government tries to do when they build RICO cases. We're going to start with the little guys and work our way up. So they're going to start with the familiars. They kill a bunch of them. They seem to get no informations. However, they're like, great, this guy got a call from that doctor that was on TV way longer in Todd's version and only for a minute in my version.
Right.
But then they spend time talking about how Jessica Biel's character creates MP3 lists for when she hunts. And I was like, so she can't hear anyone coming behind her or around her when she's fighting people?
Listen, Apple will not give us millions of dollars in product placement money.
It was old iTunes, yes.
It wasn't even that. It was like an iPod. I mean, it's included in the Gear Up montage later.
Yeah, it is.
Like, they feature the iPod.
It's the old iTunes interface where you had to like check the boxes and add songs that way. I was just like, oh man, I haven't seen this in 20 years.
It's so old. You were asking yourself, where else would I store all 100 songs I've downloaded?
Yeah.
Like, that was like the max capacity. As she's driving to go do this mission or whatever, she's on her laptop sending songs to that iPad because she can't have all of them on that iPod.
Right.
Because it couldn't store that much.
It couldn't store them. Yes. Yeah.
It had like the memory your toothbrush does now.
Yeah, it had, I want to say 4 gigs.
4 gigs is a shitload, Paige. That would be a lot. It probably had 256 megabytes.
That might have been it. I remember one of the first big ones I got was 4 gigs, and that was considered huge at the time. And now my phone, like my regular ass phone, has like, I don't fucking know, way more than that.
I have a 1 terabyte iPhone 16 Pro Max.
That's what I'm going to upgrade to.
Bish, the cameras are lit. I just looked it up, sorry. The original iPods had 5 gigs of hard drive space. You were right.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Okay. Which, you wouldn't think you could fill it up that fast, but boy, can you.
Yeah.
Considering, think about the fact that one of our episodes, when I submit my half of the audio, you submit your half of the audio, my half is usually 1.6 gigs.
Yeah.
That's how big, that's how little you can store on original iPods. Anyway, they go to that doctor's house and they're like, yeah, we just are going to walk into this office. They're just punching people. They get into the office and the doctor is dead behind the desk because, oh no, it's Drake and he is not like us.
No, he is not. He's Canadian.
Yeah, he's Canadian. They shoot at him. He jumps out a window. Now, this was just a weird note that I have because, when Blade runs after somebody, Blade is basically parkouring his way through everything in his environment.
Yes.
And it has been that way for many, many movies. Love it.
Don't change.
They have Dominic Purcell running shirtless in leather pants, and he can barely run in a straight line. Not because Dominic Purcell is doing anything wrong, but because he's in leather pants on just like a street. And so they don't give him anything to do. And so he finally gets into the upper floors of this building and they just give them a bunch of fake doors. And so there's just a scene of him smashing through fake door,
Yeah.
wall, door. Could not stop laughing.
At some point, he adopts a baby on this chase.
He just grabs a baby.
And continues running.
Yeah, I was like, why'd he stop for a snack? But it was because he gets up to the roof.
Yeah.
And Blade gets up there and he's like, you like humans too much and I'm going to beat you because you would rather save this baby than kill me. That's true. He tosses that baby and he spirals it and Blade catches it and he's gone.
I have a question before we move on from this scene.
Sure.
Do you think that baby was impressed that he flipped before he caught the baby? Who was Blade flipping for in that moment? If I was that baby, I'd be like, hey, eyes on the baby, kid.
Yeah.
My life is in danger. And Blade's like, I gotta flip. Who are you flipping for?
I just got taken from my mom and then run through 3 fake doors.
Right?
I have head injuries.
Yeah.
Please don't also spin me around.
I'm just saying, if I'm a baby and you're throwing me through the air precariously over what looks like a 20-story roof, just jump over carefully and grab me. Don't flip.
Right.
Don't add complexity.
Right. And what we find out from Drake in this moment is that he doesn't really know how to write good diss tracks. I'm sorry, I keep coming back to it.
He's too nice. That's his problem, I guess.
That's not his problem. But he wants to turn everyone into daywalkers because he can walk in the sun because he's the first vampire. So if they are infused with his blood and if they kill Blade, everyone can kind of be like Blade and then they could feed on humans whenever they want and they could become the dominant species on the planet.
Which arguably they could do anyway. But yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All they have to do is all go out en masse one night and just kill everybody. But
yeah, it's like a crystal knock type situation. Yeah.
Yeah. But Blade catches that baby and just goes, coochie coo. I was like, this is the closest we get to motherfuckers always be trying to ice skate uphill.
Paige, if I hadn't watched the movie, I would have thought you were making a joke by saying that.
No.
But that is a line of dialogue in the movie.
It happens in the movie.
Yeah.
It does. We then cut inside because Ryan Reynolds got staked in the fight earlier, and they're like injecting him with like moldable plastic.
Yeah, it's like to stop him from hemorrhaging blood. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, that's pretty cool, actually.
It probably would hurt like a bitch, though. Like, he does scream a lot, and I was like, that would hurt. Yeah.
Yep. But we take them all back to the hideout where they've got like medical stuff for him, and they're like, so Blade, what do you do after we get this virus out and kill all the vampires? Do you just like hang out? And Blade doesn't answer, and he's like, Blade hates me, doesn't he? And they're like, yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
So Blade goes out to take his serum inhaler, and the little girl sees him, and he's like, why do you do that? And he's like, there's something bad inside me, and it keeps him being out. She's like, why can't you just be nice? And he's like, the world isn't nice. I was like, oh, all right.
Yeah, like, why are you talking to a child like this? It's weird.
Yeah. We come back, and Natasha Lyonne is just like, hey, remember me? I'm in this movie too. So they've been stocking up on a bunch of supplies from all these places. We think that they're trying to do something with some biologic, either weaponizing a virus like we are or something, but we got to figure out what they're doing, and it's all going to this one address.
Yeah.
And they're like, cool. And Jessica Biel is like, great, give me some silver hollow points. Let's fucking go.
I love those silver hollow points because they're supposed to be like bullets, but they look like spark plugs.
They do always look like spark plugs.
Yeah.
And I think we said that in the first movie too, but they do. And I really wish, I know I said it in the first movie and the second movie, I just want someone loading a clip with garlic cloves. It's all I want. It'd be the funniest thing in the world to me.
I do love that.
I just want that. But anyway, they show up at this factory. The chief of police is there too.
Yeah.
And he's meeting up with a vampire. They're like, what's inside? And she's like, no. And he like slaps her and she's like, never. And they shoot her. And it's kind of cool, immediately goes to ash, and then her skull bounces off the top of his car. And he's like,
yeah.
Cool, police chief, what's going on? And the police chief's like, they'll kill me. And he's like, fucker, I'll kill you.
I know.
Which I loved.
I love that. He was like, I'm gonna kill you. What are we doing? You know what's gonna happen, right?
Right. Like, you're dead either way.
Blade's indignant nature with that kind of shit is so great. Like, it's charming almost. I love it.
I love that. But this is where we find out about all the human Capri Suns.
Yeah, human pre-suns or whatever. Yeah.
Human pre-suns. Are we going to come back to this? Never. Never. This is going to be a completely abandoned plot point.
He does make that lady shut down.
The one, yeah.
They shut down that whole factory of human pre-suns or whatever.
Right.
And they don't, I think, kill that person who types in harvest into the computer.
They don't.
Which, like, wouldn't she just then type in, like, spring or whatever and then, like, turn the thing back on?
Well,
like,
they also, the, like, police chief, who is someone that people are going to look for, they're like, you got 20 seconds. And he runs and he's like, 20, and shoots him.
I did think that was funny, though, right? Like,
it was, but I was like, okay, so is this going to be the plot line? Are we going to have to find a way to shut down all of these different farms like this all over the country?
No.
No, we will never address this again.
Literally never comes back.
Never comes back.
They only shut down that one temporarily, Paige. Like,
yeah.
The second they leave, that employee turns it back on.
Yeah, 100. Anyway, we cut back to the lair, and who's there? Whistler? No, it's definitely Dominic Purcell in Whistler's face.
Of course.
Your face on my face.
Of course.
Yes. So he one-man killing sprees. He kills Patton Oswalt. He kills Dex. It looks like he kills Ryan Reynolds, but we'll find out that they just kidnapped Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
And then he corners Natasha Lyonne, and she tells her daughter to hide, but he does kill her. And then the daughter is hiding in the vent, and he like can't get to her in the vent, but we will find out that they do kidnap her.
Yeah, eventually they do get her. That's revealed later, but you sort of think maybe she got away or whatever, but she doesn't.
Right. But Blade and Abby get back. They find the dead bodies, and now Abby's like, I have to take it personally. And Blade is just like, use it. Use it.
He becomes her drama
Use
teacher, Paige.
it.
That is what that is.
Yes.
They're in an acting class right there.
Right. Yes. Find it. Find the root.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we cut to the vampire lair where Ryan Reynolds is still alive, and we find out that Pomeranian is a mutant. And we go through like a weird interrogation where Parker Posey is just kind of slapping him, but also being like, let's fuck. And him being like, no. And she's like, I think the thing that you don't want is to be turned back into one of us. And I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to watch you turn until you can't handle the thirst anymore. And then I'm going to send this little girl in and see what you fucking do and you won't be able to live with yourself. So like, you should probably tell us what's happening. He still doesn't.
And that's Natasha Lyonne's daughter, which is like his teammate, right? On the Night Stalkers or whatever.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we get a gear up montage and we get Jessica Biel practicing the speed of her arrows, and their driver arrives and they're like, oh yeah, this is one of our sleeper cell guys. And he's like, spoiler, she sent me a video message sometime that she definitely wouldn't have had time to do, but I did get it.
Paige, I do want to point this out. When Natasha Lyonne realizes that she's going to die because the lights are flickering and her daughter tells her that,
yes,
she tells her daughter to go hide, and then she goes and records an iMovie video on her computer. She doesn't like say goodbye to her daughter. And like that video is like, if you're watching this, I'm already dead.
Yep.
So here's what I'd like you to do. Take care of my daughter. Also, I'm reading her this book. We're at this specific part.
Right.
You know, the part with the
Gnome King,
which is going to come back in the next scene, but we've never talked about before and we'll never talk about again. So yeah, everyone good? Cool. Cut to me dead. Bye.
Bye. And also, somehow they have a copy of the strain of the thing that I was making, but they miraculously have it, and they were able to distill it in a very short amount of time into one bullet, because you only get one shot. Great. Make it count. Bye.
Oh, that's right. Because she emailed all of her research, and they then made the thing.
Yes.
But they can only make one because there was only so much data that they could squeeze out of that email to make one of those things. Like, they never explained why they could only produce one.
Never. But we get the Gear Up playlist, which seems to only be the one song that's just like, this blood is gonna wake the night.
Paige, all of this music is not quite, but pretty much Prodigy.
Yes.
Smack my blade up. It's like right in that lane. It's like close, but not quite Prodigy.
Like, take my picture. I don't have a reflection because I'm a vampire with the blood tip. Like, and you're just like, what is this?
Wait a second.
What?
Is it the upper half or lower half that's visible in photos?
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
On Blade.
Oh, I think it's side to side.
Man, that would be fucking weird and cool. Be like, Blade, why are you only half in the photos? Stop asking me.
Or maybe he's just at 50% opacity.
He looks like Michael J. Fox's siblings in Back to the Future. Hell yeah. Okay.
Yep. Meanwhile, back at Hell in a Cell, it's Triple H versus Ryan Reynolds.
But Ryan Reynolds is like chained down. Like, it's not like a versus match. It's just like, watch Triple H punch this handsome man in the face.
Right. But he's like, I've got a tracker in my butt, and so all my friends are going to come fight you. And they're like, I don't think so. And he's like, you see that colloidal silver come through the vents? And they're like, our skin's going to turn blue.
I thought it was wild. When he said it was colloidal silver, I was like, oh shit. Somebody better warn Mother God.
Yeah, I was like, was Mother God in the Night Stalkers, maybe?
I love that I could make that joke with you specifically because you would have already watched the documentary about the cult leader who killed herself drinking colloidal silver.
When my mom retired, I gave her a list of documentaries to watch, and that was one of them. And she was just texting me the whole time. She was like, her skin is blue.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know.
Yeah, she drinks so much silver, she's becoming it.
Yeah.
I also like that you were like, hey, Mom, you're retired. Let me ruin your life. It's time for you to really binge the darkest shit you've ever seen, Mom.
I think this started a couple years ago where I recommended like the Q Into the Storm and a couple of the documentaries like during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And she watched them and was like, this is fantastic, like fascinating. Because she also watched The Anarchists.
I love The Anarchists.
Right? And so I gave her a list of like crazy ones to watch. And then I like go home at some point and we talk about them and we're like, yeah, can you believe those people? They lost all that crypto and then he died of cirrhosis.
The thing I love about the Anarchists is they follow two groups of people.
Yeah.
One group of those people are actual sort of anarchists.
Yeah.
And the other groups are just dickheads who got rich off crypto early on.
Yeah, I would say they follow anarcho-fascists.
Yes.
And then general anarchists. And it's wild the way those two groups intertwine. And then I would argue that the main guy, like the guy who runs it all, is just a capitalist.
Yeah.
Not an anarchist.
Scam artist. Yeah.
He's a scam artist. Yeah. And
I don't think he's really trying to hide that fact either.
I think he thinks he is, but he's bad at it.
Anyway, watch it. It's so funny.
Yeah, The Anarchist is really good. Anyway, who should bust through the ceiling? But Blade.
I love that Blade saves the day and then leaves him chained up and just goes and fucks off. He's like, you're fine, I'm out.
Right. And it's not until Jessica Biel comes through and is like, okay, here's your gear. I'll unchain you, fine. Or like, I'll shoot the chain off your hand. But this is where Blade gets into like a weird slap fight with a bunch of vampires.
Yeah.
I mean, no notes, I guess.
Eventually, he does realize he's carrying a gun and starts shooting them, and it's like way more effective.
Yes. And like, this is the thing, because she gets into like multiple fist fights, and then Ryan Reynolds and Triple H go for like 12 rounds. And like, Ryan Reynolds doesn't have anything. So yeah, so he and Triple H are just kind of fist fighting. Jessica Biel, you're like, what did she bring to this battle? Because she's fist fighting too. And then finally Blade takes out his gun and he's just shooting everybody. And then finally she like starts shooting with the bow and arrow. And you're like, fucking finally, geez. And then literally the very last vampire, she takes out the laser thing and is just like, and the vampire's just insta-dead. And I was like, you had it the whole time?
Didn't use it once.
Like the whole time.
If I had that in my back pocket, like she literally does, that would be my go-to. I'd be like, I can't fucking wait to use this.
Yeah, no one can get close to me. Like, that's how effective this is.
You know what I wouldn't grab? A compound bow.
Right.
I've got a virtual lightsaber, and I'm not going to use the bow. Thank you.
So weird.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think the effect was expensive or something. But we cut to Triple H versus Ryan Reynolds. And this is where he ends up getting chased by the dogs that are all mutant dogs.
Yeah.
And then they run through the door and, of course, off the building. And then he kicks the Pomeranian off. And then Triple H is like, have you seen my dog? And he's like, check the lobby. Ha ha ha. Hilarious.
It is very funny, yeah.
I did note at this point that Triple H spends this entire movie dressed like Steve Wilkos, where he's just got like black slacks and a black polo.
I mean, Blade shows up to this fight looking a little bit like a valet. Like, I don't know. It's just like he's got like a bright red shirt and a black leather vest over it.
Well, it's like early Under Armour.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like hammer pants though.
If he put down the Blade and picked up like a big mariachi guitar and sombrero, though, it would sort of look like he was in a mariachi band as well. Like, the outfit I thought was very funny.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then we're cutting back and forth. So Blade, at this point, it's him versus Drake.
Yeah.
And they're starting to like sword fight and whatever. Meanwhile, Ryan Reynolds breaks Triple H's arm, and then he just like snaps it back into place and is like, ha ha ha. But Ryan Reynolds finds one of those light bullets, puts it in his mouth, and punches him so he bites down. And he is then dead, becomes ash, falls off the building. Great, Ryan Reynolds can now help out, except he's not gonna, because Parker Posey has machine guns and he tackles her.
Yeah, that's the best reveal of the movie, though, realizing Triple H was a vampire this whole time.
Right. Could have been a human. No, was a vampire.
Could have gone either way.
Could have gone either way. But this is where Jessica Biel finally gets the bow out and shoots like 4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Blade and Drake are like, fight, fight, fight. They lose their swords. They crash through a floor. Fight, fight, fight. They lose another sword. They crash through the floor. And then finally, Drake is like, I'm going to put on my real skin, which basically looks like Dave Grohl as the devil with Predator face.
Paige, you had to bring up Dave Grohl. Really? You had to bring up Dave Grohl. Like, the Foo Fighters just went on an indefinite hiatus. We've never been at a higher food threat level than right now.
It's
like,
DEFCON Foo.
I know. Like, guys, we have no one out here fighting Foo. We have always had Foo Fighters.
I know.
Foo Fighters.
Foo Fighters.
I heard it when I said it the first time, Paige, and then I dug in the second time, and I love that you heard it the first time, too. I'm just saying, since like 94, we've had Foo Fighters.
I know.
Foo was at an all-time high.
Yeah, I know. What are you going to do to fight the Foo?
I mean, they struck first when they got Taylor.
Anyway.
That's the day the music died for me.
Oh, geez. Anyway, they toss...
I actually do love Taylor Hawk. He's so good. He was such a great drummer.
So I don't think that's what people thought you meant when you said Taylor, because I could have never named who the drummer was in Foo Fighters, and there's a much more famous Taylor.
Who did you think I meant?
Swift, bro.
She's still alive.
I know, but I'm just like, what is he talking about? I'm just going to go with it.
Taylor Hawkins, man. Oh, such a great drummer.
I mean, good for him.
Yeah.
Anyway, they toss Blade like a rag doll. And you're like, oh shit, maybe Blade can't fight this dude. But this is where he does ready to die, motherfucker. And Blade is just like, yeah, okay.
He's like, sure, let's do it. Which is like, fine. Blade's great. I love Blade. But like, could have been like Bon Jovi said, I was born halfway there or whatever. Like, it's close enough to the lyric. You get it.
Oh, I'm halfway vamp. Oh, living on a vamp.
It is 10:30 at night.
I know.
And I'm yelling Bon Jovi parodies in my guest bedroom. I love our job.
And my voice is limited. But she has the one arrow, one shot, one opportunity to get everything you ever wanted.
Drake spaghetti.
She shoots it. He snatches it out of the air. Then Blade grabs it and stabs him with it.
Okay, wait. We got to back it up a little bit because so much is happening in this scene. It's amazing because it looks like for a second, oh my God, Blade's about to die.
Right.
And then she shoots and Satan or whatever, what is he? Drake grabs the arrow that's nowhere close to of hitting him. He grabs it like it would have just missed, but he grabbed it and then he threw it on the ground, right? And then he goes back to trying to kill Blade. And Jessica Biel, not Alba. I know a lot of people make that mistake, Paige. Don't make it. It's real embarrassing if you do.
Don't make it.
Yeah.
It's real terrible.
Yeah, marketing department's out here fucking up all the time. But she shoots again, just a regular arrow, and it hits him this time. And he's like, goddamn it. And then Blade saves himself. And this is my thesis, that Blade cannot be saved by anybody. Blade has to save Blade because it happens a few times in this movie where like they set him up to be like, man, maybe Ryan Reynolds is going to save him or maybe Jessica not Alba is going to save him. And no, he ends up saving himself. And it's like hilarious to me. It's like, it feels very Vin Diesel in like Fast and Furious where he like can't ever lose a fight.
Yes. Yeah.
Like the director got a post-it note that was like, no, Jessica Biel doesn't kill Dracula, thereby ending this thing that technically her dad started,
right?
Not Blade,
right?
Who started way after Chris Christopherson started this like vampire, whatever. Thematically, it probably would have been better if she had done it, whatever. But the director got a post-it note that was like, Blade kills him.
Fine, but he turns into like airborne pathogens, bloodborne pathogens, and like all the vampires around die.
Yeah.
Everybody dies. And then he, instead of just dying, turns into shirtless Dominic Purcell because I think they're like, we got to give the girl something.
Yeah, he's like, lose the snake bones or whatever. We'll turn him into like, when the beast becomes the prince, it's like that sort of a reveal, except way less Michael Bolton-y.
Yeah, and at the end, he's like, you have fought with honor and you understand the ways of the blade. And you're like, okay.
Actual line of dialogue that Drake has to Blade in this movie.
Yes. And he basically is like, I'll give you one parting gift, but remember the thirst always wins. And it looks like they lay there into sunrise and other bodies, all the other vampires burst into flames. But in come the SWAT team with James Remar, who's been absent for an hour and a half of this movie. And suddenly it's just Blade's body.
Yeah.
And so they go to do the autopsy and it's the wrong body. So Drake turned into him so Blade could get away. So he's still out there as a weapon and the war never ends. And then there's a post-credit scene of him just driving around.
And that's the movie. So having seen the movie, having talked about the movie, what did you think about Blade Trinity?
Blade Trinity. I prefer the previous two Blades, but I will see any consecutive Blades because I stand Blade as a franchise.
I love the original trilogy of Blade. I think it's amazing for like the time period. Because remember, this is a Marvel movie technically. And they got like...
This is the first one. We'll talk about it in fun facts.
They got like way better at making movies after this.
Yeah, they did.
But man, I sort of like dig where they started. And I know Howard the Duck technically is, I think.
Yeah.
But like this is the first, like in my mind, like superhero Marvel movie or whatever. And man, I'm here for where it went. And I don't hate where it started. This is a fun movie.
I feel like there are small things that could have made this as fun as the first two. But I also think there's other things like Wesley Snipes not wanting to be there that make a difference. And we'll go through in fun facts. There was a lot that went wrong behind the scenes of this movie that I think you see on the screen.
That's fair. But man, am I glad this one listener request. Like, listeners, thank you so much for making me watch this movie.
Yes.
There's a lot of times when like the listener request winner's a scary one and it's like, I consider it a privilege to be able to do what we do, and I'll just sit down and take my medicine this month with the listener request. I get it. Like, that's the premise of the show. I ain't mad about it. But this listener request was a delight, and I just want to thank you. Anyway, Paige, do you have some fun facts for us?
I do.
Well, hit us with your fun facts. It's Drake Fun Facts.
As we kind of tiptoed around through most of this episode, in one of the television commercials for this film, they had to recall it one day after airing because it accidentally credited Jessica Biel as Jessica Alba.
So funny.
Now, Jessica Biel learned how to shoot with a bow and arrow for this movie, and she did it so well.
Yeah.
She's doing all her stunts doing it.
Yeah, she looks like she is. I mean,
yeah.
And she's actually like, I mean, it looks like she's actually pulling that compound bow because she's really doing it. Like it's impressive.
She is, so much that it was a problem because she was firing live arrows on set.
Oh,
and
shit.
she was directed to aim for the camera, which had a plexiglass shield in front to protect it.
Oh, fuck. Did it break the camera?
Yes, a very small
my
opening in front of
God.
the lens, and she nailed that hole at 50 feet.
Oh, my God.
And destroyed the camera. They were able to capture literally up to that point because it was a digital camera. And the footage of the incident is included in the DVD extras.
Wow.
But that camera cost $300,000.
I was going to say, that's not the Sony handheld Parker Posey was holding, I'm sure.
No.
$300,000. God, I bet that hole was super small too, because like you don't need that much
Yeah.
to get the focal through it, like the focal length through it. Anyway, that's crazy. Good for her for being great.
I know, I was like, so she's an incredible archer. Amazing. Now, according to Patton Oswalt, and if you go on YouTube, there are many, many interviews of Patton Oswalt talking about this. It is one of my favorite stories from the set. But he says that production was so troubled due to both studio interference and Wesley Snipes' mental health, where in his opinion, it seemed like Wesley had a mental health crisis because he refused to speak to the director and would not come out of his trailer, and he would only respond to the name Blade.
Oh my God.
And if he communicated with anyone, it was via Post-it notes. And Ryan Reynolds has corroborated this and said while promoting the film that Wesley Snipes ignored the entire cast and did not speak to anyone outside of scenes. But one time, he acknowledged Ryan Reynolds by saying, "Keep your mouth shut, you'll live longer."
I would be honored. Are you kidding me? That's Wesley Snipes. I would love to hear all of that from his perspective. Like, what was going through your head? Like, what was going on that made you do that?
I could tell you.
Oh, shit.
We
Okay.
have that information.
Hell yes,
Yeah.
let's go. Okay, sorry.
So in 2005, Wesley Snipes would actually go on to sue New Line Cinema and David S. Goyer, claiming that the studio did not pay his full salary and that he was intentionally cut out of casting decisions and the filmmaking process, despite being one of the executive producers of the film, and that his character's screen time was reduced in favor of co-stars Ryan Reynolds and Jessica Biel. Now, this is also part of the ongoing dispute that he and Chris Christopherson had with the studio that started before the movie even started filming.
Really?
So I don't know that it's as much a mental health crisis as much as he was having a terrible time, hated everyone in production, was very mad that it was not going the way that he thought it should go. And as an executive producer, he should have a certain amount of say in that because that means you're putting up some money. And so he and Chris Christopherson had become very good friends after the first two movies. And they were very unhappy with this movie and unhappy with David S. Goyer's script decisions because he wrote and directed.
Yeah.
They felt like too many new characters were added to the universe and that Blade didn't need any sidekicks besides Whistler. They wanted the original script that was just the two of them in kind of that post-apocalyptic version.
Yeah, I kind of like that pitch for that script. Would have been cool. So it seems like they just like, you guys are ruining what we did in the first two movies, and I hate it. I hate that I'm here on set. So like, I kind of get it. But,
yeah,
you know.
Well, and so Guillermo del Toro had whatever his idea was. The post-apocalyptic one is actually an early David S. Goyer idea. There's rumors that Guillermo del Toro had something similar. But the storyline was axed by the studio because they thought it was too dark. And I'm like, it's a fucking Blade movie. Like,
yeah.
At one point, Stephen Norrington considered returning to direct this film. I believe Stephen Norrington directed the first film. But he changed his mind after reading the script that the studio had kind of edited and he didn't like. So, and writing continued throughout production. So, for example, Paul Levesque, a.k.a. Triple H, the producers on set really liked his camera presence and work ethic. And so New Line Studios insisted that they add extra scenes for him to make his role bigger. So they were rewriting as they were filming the movie. Ryan Reynolds gained 25 pounds of muscle for this role. You barely see it in this movie, unfortunately.
I mean, he is very lean, though, in this movie.
Yeah. He's very lean, but we only see him shirtless when he's getting the shit beat out of him by Triple H. So.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate your apology.
I mean, if you would like to see more of like this from Ryan Reynolds specifically, I will direct you to the Amityville Horror remake.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yep. Now, the barge that the Night Stalkers use as their lair was originally a floating McDonald's restaurant built for Expo 86 held in Vancouver.
Hell yeah. Okay.
This is the only film in the trilogy to contain a post-credit scene like many films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And this is, a lot of people think this is the first Marvel movie. It's technically not, because it's not until after this film that the live action film rights go back to Marvel Studios. And they went on to develop a new film with the character and even had discussions with Wesley Snipes about reprising the role. However, ultimately they cast Mahershala Ali, who was also a super fan of Blade, but it has been rife with filming issues and has been delayed multiple times. In 2016, Kate Beckinsale had also said that there would be an Underworld crossover to Blade Trinity with the Underworld film series in development with Marvel Studios, but that was canceled when the film rights reverted to Marvel Studios in 2012. Now, in the original Blade comics, Hannibal King was a vampire and was turned by Deacon Frost, who, if you remember, is the villain from the first movie, but he then remains a vampire kind of like Blade, so he isn't able to be out in the sun or anything like that. And I think they kind of hinted that at this movie, but they don't stick the landing on it.
They just don't really go into much of what happens after he dies. So, like, they just don't really say.
Yeah.
But, I mean, just like the main guy, Dracula, didn't have a specific backstory. Maybe, Blade doesn't have a specific post story.
Oh, no, not that. I mean, Hannibal King, Ryan Reynolds' character.
Oh, shit. Okay, yeah. My bad.
Is technically a vampire, and they kind of talk about it, but they don't really establish what. They're like, they gave me a cure. And I was like, but even that cure had limits from anyway. Now, the opening scene was originally scripted to be in Iraq, and in fact, they say Iraq in multiple scenes later. But consultants pointed out at the time that unmarked helicopters would have either been shot down by the U.S. military or shot at by Iraqi insurgents. So they changed the scene to Syria, but they forgot to change it in the rest of the script. So it's only in that one shot that it's Syria. Everything else is Iraq.
Amazing. Okay.
Or at least referred to as Iraq.
Yeah.
So Wesley Snipes hated David S. Goyer so much that he's not even in the making of featurettes for this movie that appeared on the DVD and other promotional places.
That's so wild. Like, he hates the guy who brought you The Dark Knight so much.
I know.
That's so wild. Like, Goyer's made some great shit. Like, yeah, maybe Jumper's not amazing, but
Jumper's fucking awful,
a lot of his movies slap. Like, Goyer knows what's up.
Here's the thing. I will say Dark Knight is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But this and Jumper are not great. And so, like, you can argue studio interference, especially on this one.
Sure.
But, like, I think he grew into being a much better director. And at this time, maybe he was not. He also had a lot of script ideas that were maybe not the best. He had another idea that not only would include Hannibal King from the Blade comics, but he wanted to create a new female character called Rachel Van Helsing from the Tomb of Dracula comics, which is like Blade adjacent and not the same. But then he heard that the movie Van Helsing was coming out this year and pulled that out. And so he creates the character of Abigail Whistler that he then has to explain away.
Yeah.
Now, if you have this on DVD, there is a separate special features disc. And when you click up when the vampire hieroglyphics are highlighted, there is a small hidden movie. I could not find out what it is. I think it's just behind the scenes stuff.
That's so cool, though. They hit it like that.
Yes. I'll end on this fun one because this is a blast. Oh, no, I've got two.
Okay.
Two.
Okay.
I will end on a fun one. But Todd, I would like to confirm a theory that you have.
What? I've never been right before. Hang on.
Now, you're almost right. You're
you
almost right.
ruined it, Paige. Come on.
The sets used for the vampire's high-rise lair, so they're like office buildings,
Yeah.
are still in use for Stargate Atlantis.
Okay, Stargate Atlantis hasn't been on the air for like 12 years, but
Yeah, whenever they wrote
that is very
this.
funny.
Yeah.
I was so close.
You were so close. It was not the ziggurat, it was the high-rise, but yes. And starting in 2004. So literally they like wrapped this movie and then they took over those sets.
Hilarious. Okay.
But I'll end on this fun one. The car that Blade drives in all three movies is a 1968 Dodge Charger, modified with UV lights behind the front grille, as well as numerous switches inside the car. After the movie, the car was purchased by a man in Vancouver in like a set auction, and he kept the car virtually the same except for adding a 440 under the hood. And those are your fun facts.
Okay, very cool. Just for the record, Dominic Toretto drives a 1968 Dodge Charger. Anyway, I'm just going to throw that out there. Paige, thank you for those fun facts, but let's talk a little bit about box office. So what do you think the production budget was for Blade Trinity in 2004?
60 million.
Paige, it was $65 million.
Oh, I'm getting really good at this.
Yeah. You've been doing it for like 4 years, Paige. But like,
That's fair.
that's a lot of money for this movie. Like, that's a lot. That's like
Yeah.
$108 million today.
It looks terrible for that amount of money.
Paige, the scene with the news reporter and the psychiatric guy and the police chief,
Yeah.
the backdrop is just a black curtain.
It looks like it was filmed on a flip phone. Like,
Yeah.
that's how bad it was. Yeah. Well, and then there's a scene where Drake is walking through town and it just green screens him out with like
Yes.
the moving town behind, like city behind him. And I was like, for what they spent on this movie, someone should probably be in jail for embezzling.
Ooh, Paige, I don't know exactly what happened, but someone did go to jail after this
For
movie.
taxes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to do the research on what happened. So
Yeah.
let's just get back to box office. So this movie premiered on December 10th, 2004. It was number 2 the weekend it came out. It was up against Ocean's 12, and that was number 1 that week. Blade Trinity was number 2. National Treasure was number 3. The Polar Express was number 4. And Christmas with the Cranks was number 5. What do you think Blade Trinity made in its opening weekend?
Ooh, opening weekend. Because I remember this was a big movie and then people found out it was terrible. I'm going to say opening weekend, this made about 25 mil.
You're about $9 million off. It was $16 million.
Oh, no.
And it did drop from second in its first week to 5th in its second week,
Yep.
which isn't great, especially when there are only 2 movies coming out
Yeah.
that next week. Yeah, so like it's not great, but you know, it was in theaters for 11 weeks. What do you think it brought in domestically?
Domestically, after 11 weeks, I think this brought in 35 million.
It did a little bit better. It did $52 million, $52.3 million. But Paige, it made $78.9 million internationally. So like, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
If you adjust for inflation, it brings that 131.3 up to $218.8 million today. It's quite a bit of money. It probably didn't bring in near as much as they wanted, but it still made money. But that's your box office. Paige, you want to hit us with that scary scale?
Our scale is a scale of 1 to 10 of how scary we found this film today. Our 1 being Ghostbusters, our 10 being Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Todd, where you at?
It's a 1 for sure.
Yeah, it's a 1 for
It's
sure.
an action
for sure.
horror movie. Like that's what this
Yeah,
is.
I give it a 1 as well.
Nice. All right. Well, this week you guys made us watch Blade Trinity, and thank you so much, guys. It was awesome. I loved it. Paige, next week, and normally listener request is the last movie of the month, but Halloween's a little bit different because we always do a Halloween movie the week of Halloween. And so let's talk about what we're doing next week, Paige.
It is Halloween 5.
Yes. I don't know anything about it.
I just know that we left off with that little girl that might have been a murderer.
The Herderer? Yeah, I honestly, okay, I'm looking forward to getting back into this universe. I feel like it's been a year since the last time we visited it.
It has indeed been a year.
So your homework for next week is to watch Halloween 5, The Revenge of Mike Myers, which implies that the 4th one had something to do with Mike Myers too. Interesting.
Yeah, it's the return of Michael
I
Myers
know.
in the 4th one.
I know.
Yeah.
But now it's The Revenge. It's another R word. It's completely different, Paige. I think it does reprise the same girl, though, right?
It does, because I believe he comes back to kill her.
It's The Revenge. There was a reason they called it that.
Yeah, I'm not going to spoil anymore, but yes.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's your homework for next week is to watch The Revenge of Mike Myers and then check back for that episode. Oh, hey, Paige, also, by the time this episode comes out, guess who just got married?
You did.
Boom.
Congrats.
Yes, because this comes out the 21st, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I will have been married for 4 days, guys.
Oh, congrats.
I'm bringing it up because I'm happy. Anyway,
Do you have any reviews for us, Todd?
I think I might. Let me check. Oh, you know what? I do have some Spotify comments, and our most recent episode was The Faculty, which was a pretty wild episode. I mean, someone started a chant that was just Sonda in the comments, which I thought was very funny.
All right.
So, someone out there literally wrote, Anthony said, fingers crossed for Mikey's return to discuss the Phantasm 3 sequel, which is very
maybe that'll
funny
happen. Who
because
knows?
we've
Maybe.
already recorded that episode. It came out last week.
Yes.
But like you guys haven't heard it because, again, Paige is going on her 5-year anniversary trip the same week I'm getting married. So we had to record a bunch of episodes before that week.
Yep.
So you haven't heard it yet.
But it does exist.
It does, I promise you. And it's decent. Guys, I am going to read this comment as the official comment for the episode. And this one's from Kara with a K, not a C. Get it right. And she says, have you accepted Josh into your heartnet? And that is, I think, going to be our missionary statement. You know what I'm saying? Because I have applied to have I'm just joking, Paige. I have not done that. I definitely would talk to you and get your approval first. You're a partner in this business. But it's a funny bit. Anyway, Josh Hartnett is God, is all I'm saying. Think about it. But thank you guys so much for the 5-star reviews and Spotify comments. And if you want to have me read your Apple 5-star review or comment on Spotify, do one of those things and I'll do just that. So guys, if you like this show but want to hear Paige and I talk about romantic comedies or just regular romantic movies, check out our other podcast. Some might call it a sister podcast called Romancing the Pod, where we do just that weekly. It's a lot like this show, but for romance and romantic comedies because Paige doesn't like them. So we make her watch them, just like you guys make me watch horror over here. But if you want to follow me, I am at Todd J. Awesome on all the social media. Paige is at Rampage Wesley on Instagram?
Yes, and TikTok.
And just Paige Wesley on Twitter, because you got that before some CEO lady and she wanted it, but you wouldn't give it back. And I respect you for that.
Refuse.
Also, Paige
Suck it, other Paige Wesley.
Paige is also on another podcast. It's great. You should check it out. It's called Cult Podcast with Armando Torres, who is a wonderful person. And if you want to support this show, go to Patreon at patreon.com/horrorvirgin, where there are a lot of great levels and a lot of great things. We do the Patreon shout outs at the beginning of every episode. We do listener requests, stuff like that, bonus episodes. So you'll be getting all of that content, plus episodes a day early with no ads, and who doesn't love that? So sign up for the Patreon and get a lot of great stuff.
Great. And that's going to be it for us. You guys, I'm Paige.
And I'm your horror virgin, Todd.
Keep it ooky spooky.
Yeah, have an amazing week, guys. Bye! Dracula! Wait. Dracula!